All right, everybody. How we doing? How we doing? What is going on? How we doing? All right, hold on. Hello. Testing. 1 2 3 1 2 3. All right. I know I got some more late points. I told you guys this is probably gonna happen. I was probably gonna relax a little bit now that we've hit the threshold. Give me 1 second here. So we're gonna add 15 late points. We're gonna add 15. Here we go. Okay. That should be good. Yeah, we're going to add 15 here. We're going to add a quick 15. All right. Where did I get that jersey? That is a phenomenal question. Here we go. Here we go. If you are interested in the jersey, just go sign up at that link. Just go sign up at that link, and you'll get immediately notified once it drops. So the drop is coming soon. Just go sign up right there, and you will get a notification when it drops. All right. Yeah, just go follow that link. Also, it's not just Zoro. It's the other strats as well. It's not just Zoro. I think that's their flagship one, but they got all the strats. Philly Zoof Goo, thanks for being a parking tier member for 23 months. Cooked everyone at the Agenda Reverie with your Sabo, Luffy, Akainu thought process. I don't even feel that strongly about that one. But I strongly feel like, I truly feel like the Sabo thing, it comes more so from a desire for Sabo to do something rather than what seems to make sense in the story itself. Does that make sense? Like that's how I view it. I think it's more so a desire to see Sabo do something. Oh, Tiptio Treviso thanks to 2. The Admiral fans are so annoying in these debates. Oh man, we don't got to get into it. Okay. Let me just say one thing. First, go get your Pirate King tier member submissions in because I'm recording it literally in the next few days. Get your Pirate King podcast submissions in right now. I am close to recording. This recording is happening in the next 2 days, guaranteed. So definitely go get your Pirate King podcast submissions in. For those of you who don't know, Pirate King podcast, it's a monthly podcast. I take all submissions from members, Pirate King level members, both on YouTube and Patreon, and then we answer all their questions one by one over the course of an hour to 2 hour long podcast. It used to be an hour and a half, but now it's hitting 2 hours. Last month we had a crazy large number of submissions. This month we're a little bit lower on the number of people who have gotten their submissions in. So definitely get yours in because last month we were extending the deadline a little bit. This month that's not going to be the case. So I'm recording it in the next couple days. Definitely get your submissions in right now. Second, let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. Hold on, let me unpin this message. Let me remove this message. Oops, let me unpin this. And then let me do this. Yeah, for Jersey, go to... There we go. Admiral fans are so annoying in these debates. I think that everybody will feel like, I'm sure Admiral fans think that Yonko fans are very annoying in these debates. I think I had a realization as to why. I feel like I had a realization as to why, like, because some people might feel like I'm anti-Admiral biased or something like that. But I think what I don't like that I think that in general, Admiral fans, I feel like, are resistant to new information. Because if you were to go back further and further in my channel, particularly before like 2020, 2021 or whatever, um, my opinions were generally that Yonko Admirals, I think that there was a good amount of crossover. Um, let me give like a little window into how I perceive, because I've been in the community for a long time, so how I perceive certain debates have evolved, right? So Yonko Admirals has been a thing since essentially the Marine Ford period of time. Um, and during that time, I feel like both sides had solid legs to stand on, because I think the Yonko probably were hyped more, but in Marine Ford itself, we did see that we saw all three admirals have a go at Whitebeard at varying points. We saw all three admirals have a go at Whitebeard at varying points throughout the battle, and what we saw is that they all did decently well against him, right? You could debate how you viewed each interaction or whatever, but the general feel was that, yeah, the admirals all held their own for sure. At the very least, held their own 1v1 against Yonko at varying points. Whitebeard, obviously, he was suffering from a lot. He got stabbed before he started fighting, and then he had heart attacks and everything like that. So the debate was basically like, how much did Whitebeard get nerfed before this? How would things have gone if whatever? And that's not even accounting for his age, which is that Whitebeard in general was much, much older than he was in his prime, right? So it was a gray area sort of conversation, because the only time we've really seen admirals versus Yonko was this one instance at Marine Ford. And then the problem is that Whitebeard is this complicated measuring stick, in that he is, even aside from the age and the life support thing, within the battle itself, before the battle starts, he's further handicapped by the scored stabbing and everything, right? But with all of that being said, the admirals then all do very well against him, right? So it opens up this debate of like, okay, well, Whitebeard, at least at Marine Ford, is repeatedly being referred to as the strongest Yonko, the strongest man in general, right? So then would that suggest that the admirals would be comparable to the other Yonko who are below Whitebeard, right? That was the thinking at that period of time. And that's why it was like a good debate early on. I think my thing with the admiral side of things is that there has been a resistance to us learning new information, which is that as time has gone on, right, we have learned a lot of other things, which is that the more and more that we've seen, the more and more likely it seems that Whitebeard maybe wasn't the best standard example for a Yonko at Marine Ford. Now that we've learned things like, we've seen just how physically like indestructible other Yonko like Kaido and Big Mom are, but more importantly, we've learned that Conqueror's Haki is a huge part of what makes one a Yonko. And Whitebeard could no longer use Conqueror's Haki. He could use armament, but it was clear that he could not use Conqueror's Haki at Marine Ford anymore, right? 2 weeks prior, he'd been able to split the sky with Shanks, but at Marine Ford, it was clear that he was no longer able to use Conqueror's Haki. That was established with the whole the Luffy Conqueror's Haki scene, right? So that's a big game changer in the discussion, right? One, realizing that whereas previously we felt like Whitebeard is kind of being presented as the gold standard for Yonkos, now as time goes on, it's kind of like maybe Whitebeard was not just the gold standard for Yonkos at that point, maybe he was the weakest Yonko. So that's something that starts to become a bit of a discussion. But more importantly, the big piece of new information that seems to have become really, really prevalent in One Piece is that Conqueror's Haki is the most powerful ability, right? That's kind of what's been explained ever since, around chapter 1000, that Conqueror's Haki is the ability that trumps all. It is the most important ability. The strongest characters all have advanced Conqueror's Haki, so the ability to use Conqueror's Haki in battle specifically, right? So that was like a huge piece of information. It's been reiterated many times in the story by many other characters. Kaido, Law, Roger recently. That's what the new information has been. That's what the new information, the most important new power scaling piece of information that's been introduced to us. But it's weird because from Admiral fans' perspective, it's like that stuff just isn't even included. That's where I'm thrown, because it's like we've actually learned a lot since Marine Ford, and we've basically been told what the strongest characters have, and it's something that the Admirals so far all seem to lack. So do you guys want to maybe rethink your opinions? I think it's weird to basically have, like, if you formulate those opinions back then at around Marine Ford, right? And then as time goes on, a lot more evidence seems to stack that, okay, there's actually new information that suggests that we were not getting the full picture, and actually there's evidence that suggests that the Yonko all have some things that the admirals just don't. And it's like, do you want to change your minds? It's like, no, we think it's the same. I just don't think that that's good faith arguing, because it's basically suggesting that if you're an Admiral fan, you made up your mind a long time ago that Admirals and Yonko are just the same, and that since then, any new information basically just needs to be kind of dismissed as like, well, even if Advanced Conquerors Hockey is a big deal, it wouldn't change the Yonko Admirals debate. It's like, well, why doesn't it? Does that make sense? That's what I dislike about it. It just feels like, whereas at one point you could see the merits of both sides, since then, one side has disproportionately gotten a lot more points added in their favor, and we've been told a lot of information that is meant to restructure how we view strength in One Piece, but Admiral fans haven't changed their opinions whatsoever, which to me just seems like there's not a sense of reasonableness in there, in that they decided at a certain point that we view this as the balance, and they don't want to take into account that new information might change what that interpretation could be, you know? People used to believe that one Yonko could 3v1 the Admirals. That was an extreme view at some point, and I think that was maybe more so a King of Lightning view. I don't think that's like a common view, you know? Can I up the volume a bit? Yeah, I can up the volume a bit. Oh, shit. Did that help at all? I don't know if I turned the right knob. All right. First, let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. Let's get the stream likes up to 50. One Piece, One Life, thanks for the 5. Yo, Morge, crazy coincidence. I'm literally drafting my own top 30 right now for my video later this week. Lol, biggest shock for me is Loki top 10. Loki, I think for characters alive, Loki should be top 10. Off the top of my head, right? I think that I did want to wait to the end of the year, because I think next chapter, seeing how Loki kills Harold, is going to be a big indicator for us for a lot of things, because, like, if Harold's actually fully Dami Reversied and fighting Loki and shit, then that's huge props for Loki, right? I think that I want to do a top 30 all time, so I might save that for end of the year. So this top 30, I agree, is a bit premature. It's a bit premature. But it's also just taking into account that we're going to have breaks, and it's going to be a bit before we get that next chapter. Fatingo, thanks for being a Yonko team member for 30 months, man. Could not post this last stream, but this is the dub I did of your last video. Please check it out. Okay. All right, let's take it out. So Fatingo. Oh, JWP. Holy shit. Okay, we'll get to you in 1 second, man. Where's Fatingo's comment? I actually don't see your comment, man. Fatingo. Okay, I see it. But this is the dub I did. I don't see a link, man. Okay, Fatingo, I think you're gonna have to post the link one more time, maybe. I don't see a link, man. Fading Phase, welcome to the Pirate King tier. Thank you for the long time support, man. I hope you enjoy it, and of course, obviously you've been in and out before. You know the drill. Just get your submission in, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Crow Stray God, thanks for the 5. Who are your top 5 most level-headed Conquerors Hockey users? I'd say Rayleigh, Shanks, Mihawk, probably Dragon. I think I want to see a bit more Dragon's character. If we're saying only confirmed Conquerors Hockey users, I guess we would nix Mihawk and Dragon, right? But let's just assume them for the sake of it, right? So Rayleigh, Shanks, Mihawk, Dragon. Damn, the current batch of top 3 Conqueror's Haki users is pretty interesting. You know, one random thing I thought of? Okay, tell me if I'm wrong on this. Tell me if I'm wrong. This is a random thing I thought of, right? I wonder if, in terms of groupings, okay, so we always felt like Roger, Whitebeard, Garp, that's like kind of a generation type grouping, but after having seen the whole Rocks flashback storyline, my sense now is more so that Rocks, Roger, Garp, that's kind of a trio that Oda's grouping a little bit more together as having come up basically. Like, they're not all the same age, but they were all the same generation in that Rocks and Roger, it's literally kind of explained like that, right? Like, this is the era where these 3 were the biggest names, and then the finale of God Valley comes down to Rocks versus Roger and Garp, right? You could argue Roger and Garp are not yet maybe at their absolute best or anything. That's totally fine. But I'm saying in terms of, like, the era where you became established, right? Roger was the number 2 pirate on the seas, while Rocks was number 1, and then Garp was already very clearly established to be the number 1 Marine, right? So I wonder if, like, I kind of view it as almost now like Rocks, Roger, Garp kind of came up as a similar generation, and then Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom come up as a sort of similar generation. And obviously they're not all the same age. Like, Whitebeard's obviously clearly got some years on Kaido, Big Brother, and then Big Mom's kind of the middle child, right? But they were subordinates back during the Rocks, Roger, Garp era. So just follow me here for a second, right? And then there's overlap, right? Roger's still a big name pirate while Whitebeard becomes a big name pirate, but Roger's era ends and then it kind of becomes the era of Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom, the Yonko in the wake of Roger and Garp and everything and Rocks, right? So I wonder if it's kind of like Rocks, Roger, in terms of eras, I feel like Oda always kind of has 3 big top tier type characters come up roughly around the same time with Rocks, Roger, Garp. Then I think after that, in their wake, kind of chasing behind, Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom all get their shit like together, and then they reach that next level. And then I feel like in the more modern years, in the last 20 years, I feel like Dragon, Shanks, Mihawk, right? That's maybe a trio right after that. So I don't know. Am I just imagining that? See what I'm saying? TomTom3070, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 38 months. Always good to see you, TomTom. Thank you very much for the long time support. Hi, Morge. I was in the psych ward from the 16th to the 25th, and now I have COVID, but I'm ironically doing better than usual mental health-wise. Please read Kaiji. I'm sorry to hear that, man. Are you doing okay? Very sorry to hear that. Do you want to share anything in terms of what you're going through right now, or are you just here to pop in and say that you're doing well, and mental health-wise you're doing better? From the 16th to the 25th of November. Wow. I'm not going to read Kaiji just because you came out of a psych ward, but I do have it on the list. Sorry to hear that, man. TomTom, for everybody who doesn't know, is a longtime supporter of the channel, and he is responsible for making a lot of the tier list templates that we've had here. So I really appreciate that. Weekly Zonin, thanks for the 5. Yo, Mr. Watch Mojo, how goes it? Did you find the videos you do? Also, did you show your list to King of Lightning or Brago? Did I show my list, my top 30 list? No. Okay, let me make a note for myself, because I did not look into Watch Mojo stuff. Let's see. Before next Friday. I'm okay with sharing as long as they don't have my name in the credits or anything. JWP, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 36 months, man. Top 30 peak, also 3 years. Yeah, man. Bust out your new emotes. Congratulations and thank you for the long time support. And everybody say thanks in chat for JWP gifting another 5 memberships. JWP, long time contributor on the channel. And he's responsible for many people on here getting their first memberships. So yeah, definitely shout outs to JWP. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Let's get the stream likes up to 100. JP, thanks for the 5. Seeing Garp and Luffy negate Ice and Magma with Conquerors nearly killed, really killed Admiral's agenda to me. To me, it's simple. If Akainu is revealed to be a Conqueror's Haki user, like if he's awakened it, then we're back on the table, you know? I just think that there's a ceiling for Admiral characters without that. Tio Treviso, thanks for the 2. I believe that Pirate King tiers can 1v3 the Admirals. How do I say this? I don't like. It's gonna sound crazy, but I don't think it's out of the question. Simply because I think it depends. I think there's a difference between, are you talking like 3 green bulls or like 3 Aokijis, you know? So it depends how you view that, you know? Because we saw what Rox did to Garling very easily. And Garling could very well be the strongest out of all the Gorset, right? Like, Garling very well actually could be... Whether we like it or not, Garling probably is, like, Admiral-ish plus. Not Admiral plus. Admiral-ish, right? I don't want to go too far. But Garling is probably at least, like, an Admiral or something like that, right? And Rox basically just treated him like nothing. Like, it made him sweat a little bit, but... You know, it's nothing crazy. So, I don't know. Shanks, no diff, Green Bull, yeah. Attilia343, thanks for the 5. Have you seen the last 2 episodes? Fastest pacing in years. Both episodes adapted nearly 2 chapters, plus they were animated extremely well. Unfortunately, I only saw one clip, which was the one people were making fun of Luffy and them defeating Mars, which gives a poor impression of the pacing, but I know that that's just one bad clip and not actually representative. I'm probably not going to watch because I imagine the pacing has to be fast because we're at Vegapunk's speech part, right? So you simply cannot have 1 chapter per episode, but it is good to know. I might actually rewatch all of Egghead once it's all said and done. King J, thanks a lot. All Admiral hype comes from the illogical theory that Akainu hypothetically awakened Conqueror's Haki at age 55. It's crazy that even 8-year-old Yamato has better Conqueror's Haki panels than Akainu. I don't think that's where all Admiral hype comes from, because if anything, I feel like Admiral fans want to downplay the idea of Conqueror's Haki, because I think Akainu is no longer representative of Admiral level if he awakens Conqueror's Haki, because now he's something more than that, right? Like, he's separated himself, right? Whereas generally when I think of Admiral level characters, I'm thinking of Kizaru, Fujitora, Green Bull, still Aokiji, like characters that are the peak of what you can be in One Piece with a strong Devil Fruit, like really strong Devil Fruits, really strong mastery of Haki, but missing Conqueror's Haki, right? I think I would still call that Admiral level. Even if Akainu awakened Conqueror's Haki and stuff, I would now be like, I would personally view him now as being in another tier. King J, thanks a lot. If anything, Kizaru's speech proved that they're just pawns in the system, and then not having Conqueror's Haki is narratively perfect. I agree. It makes sense for the narrative. Tio Treviso asked, can JWP donate Pirate King members to make the podcast 3 hours? No, I don't think so. That would be insane. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Crow Stray God, thanks for the 10. If Mihawk and Dragon have Conqueror's Haki most likely, then those 2 plus Shanks are way more chill than the Roger, Garp, Rox trio, or the Big Mom, Kaido, and Whitebeard trio. Nothing to it really, I just find it interesting. Whitebeard is complicated because in some ways he's actually somewhat chill. If you look through, like, his scenes in the past, he's actually very level-headed and calm, and everybody else seems like a little bit too, rowdy and boisterous in that era, and Whitebeard's just like, I'm just kind of above this shit. Not above this shit, but, like, these guys are too immature, right? But we do see in the modern era that Whitebeard gets riled up. You know, like, when Roger asked him, hey, can I borrow Odin? Whitebeard got, like, he was about to throw a bit of a tantrum, right? Whitebeard got pissed off when, like, Shanks was talking to him about Blackbeard and stuff like that, right? So Whitebeard's complicated. I would say he is the next most chill Conqueror's Haki user, in that he is level-headed, but there is a rage inside of him that can boil up, probably a little bit more than, frequently than you might see from, like, a Shanks or a Rayleigh or something. Saint King J says, looking at the conditions the Beck was in after he killed an admiral, it's kind of possible that he can at least take on 3 admirals, 3 green bulls, or 2 Kuzans. At least take on 3 admirals, 3 green. I think it's not fully fair to compare defeating 1 character versus defeating 3 3 characters in a row versus defeating 3 characters at the same time. I think that's a bit different. So I'm not going to say that that's like a doable thing necessarily, but I also don't think it's out of the question, because I do think that as time goes on, we will see more and more to the ceiling of One Piece. Like, nobody would have believed you if you said that Emu can take on Roger, Rox, Garp, Whitebeard, Big Mom, and Kaido all at the same time and be fine. Like, nobody would have believed you. Like 3 years ago, people would have been like, what? That would make Emu too strong. How is anybody going to defeat him or whatever? But we just saw that happened, you know? JP, thanks for the 5. Anime doing 2 chapters per episode has actually made the last few episodes have stalling as a rarity. I definitely believe that. So I guess that's just a clip that's the exception, not the norm. Fatingo, thanks for the 2. Posting the link as a comment of the super chat. Oh, I see. Okay. I see what you're doing. Oh, you know what? You probably can't send a link to an outside thing. Don't have Twitter or well, last shot. Just tell me the name of the video, man. I can look at that. Sorry about that. Aslan, thanks for the 5. You're forgetting the Rear Admiral cope, which is that BS Kazar statement of him wanting to pull up to Wano. I mean, I don't think that they're far off, though. Like, I think people are I think that it's very close. Like, I do think it's really, really close between Yonko and Admirals for the most part. I think, like, if you have a character that I view as, like, the higher end of Yonko, if not, like, to me, like, just about the peak of Yonko level, roughly, which is Shanks, and then Green Bull, who's maybe, like, the very bottom of Admiral level, I would say that, yeah, Shanks is going to make him look pretty bad. But then if you have... you know, Kizaru versus Big Mom, I think that is pretty damn close, you know? I still would personally take Big Mom. Big Mom has... Yeah, I would still personally take Big Mom, but I think it's really close. Let's get the stream likes up to 100. Tio Trevisa, thanks for the 2. How many Admirals can Emu or Joy Boy take on alone? I don't know about Joy Boy, but Emu's like a very unfair matchup because it's implied that Emu could take on like 6 Yonko type characters on his own. I know you're like, well, Big Mom, Kaido not in their primes yet, but it also seems like it wouldn't have made a difference if they're in their primes. So I don't know. At a certain point, the numbers stop mattering, you know, just because fundamentally there's a gap. And like with Joy Boy, even with Joy Boy, right? Remember when it was stated like, oh, Roger and Garp can't even hurt Rox because you need your Conqueror's Haki to be able to surpass his Conqueror's Haki, right? So if Joy Boy's got that level of Haki too, where you straight up can't damage him without a sufficient level of Conqueror's Haki, then it doesn't really matter the number of Admirals, does it? Fatingo, thanks for the 5. Not sure why, but it seems like YouTube does not permit one to post a link in chat or supers. Yeah, don't have Twitter or well, last shot. Yeah, what's the name of the video, man? Literally just my title with Spanish dub, lol. Okay. So, Fatingo, I don't want to... hold on. I don't want to burst your bubble too much, but there is actually... Is it the latest video title? Has like 15 views. Emu's complete ability solved Spanish dub. Okay. So, unfortunately, there is actually an organization that we might be working with shortly to get the videos dubbed in other languages. But I do appreciate you taking the time to dub this in another language. Yeah, if you guys want to check it out, Emu's complete ability solved, but in Spanish dub. That is a video that Fatingo put out just recently. Random guy, thanks for the 2. Does Prime Raylan Gaban versus Kaido and Big Mom? I used to say Raylan Gaban, but again, you got to change your opinions with new information. I feel like we went through the entire God Valley flashback. There is no longer sufficient evidence for me to feel like, okay, Prime Raylan Gaban would beat Kaido and Big Mom. The crazy thing about Raylan Gaban is that the evidence for their strength is more so shown in their old age than in their primes. And that's what makes them difficult to scale. Because every time we've gotten to see them in their primes, right? So in the Odin flashback, right? Or just now in the God Valley flashback, right? Oda doesn't actually show them fighting. He just doesn't. We got that moment where really one-shotted Sommers, but that's just so unimportant. It just doesn't carry any meaning, right? So we've never gotten to see them fight in their primes, right? We have gotten to see them fight a good amount in their old age, right? Rayleigh and Kizaru. Gaban actually fought Luffy and Zoro at the start of the arc before they knew who he was, right? And then obviously Gaban pieces up Sommers, right? So with them, it's actually almost more like Oda's hiding what they were like in their primes, and instead he's just showing, I think he's trying to go as vague as possible with their strength, because he's just showing us in their old age. It's like leaving it open to imagination, because when you have Rayleigh fight Kizaru, I know there's lots of debates about like how close was that fight actually. Some people feel like Kizaru could have just ended it at any second. I disagree. I don't think that's the implication. To me, it feels more like, damn, Rayleigh's doing a good job at least holding off an Admiral, even if he can't beat him, but holding off an Admiral in his old age. So then the idea is like, wow, how strong could he be in his prime, right? So it's Oda's creating that sort of speculative, hypothetical, open to interpretation thing. Like, how much do you feel he's fallen off from his prime, right? It's just showing like in a weakened state, he's able to do this, which is pretty impressive. So then in his prime, you like freely extrapolate like, well, then he might have been like this strong or whatever, right? It's open to your own reasoning, right? Gaban, same thing, where it's like, oh my god, Gaban's toying with Luffy in Gaban's old age, and he's kind of like got Luffy and Zoro kind of shook when they should be just about close to their primes, and Gaban's retired for the last 40 years, right? So it's like, damn, how strong would he have been in his prime, where he could fight like with max tools, like his future sight, Conqueror's Haki, all of that at its peak, right? So it opens that's exciting to think about, but it's just so impossible to judge, right? It's like, do you think he went down a tier and a half or whatever? Like, how big do you feel the decline is, kind of? So because with them, we're not getting any new information from the God Valley stuff, because that's the case, and all we have is we can kind of see, oh wow, they did really well as old men against these strong characters, and it's kind of just like some guesswork at what that could mean for their primes. I'm just going to go with the conservative estimate, I think, at the end of the day, and just be like, I think that they're both Yonko tier in their primes, but I think that duo would lose to Kaido and Big Mom. Yeah. I think Rayleigh, where I would guess, would be above Big Mom, below Kaido. And Rayleigh's the stronger of the two. So I think that ultimately they would lose. JWP, thanks for the 5. Can any Admiral damage Kaido without Advanced Conqueror's Haki? I think so. I definitely think so. They've got really, really strong fruits. Like, it's not all Haki. I'm not trying to say that, like, I'm trying to make it clear. I still think it's close. You know, it's not just fruits. Big Mom was getting hurt by some shit that definitely wasn't Advanced Conqueror's Haki, you know? Sorry, it's not just Haki. Like, fruits also matter. I'm just saying that it's also made clear that Kaido, Big Mom also have really broken fruits and are just better at Haki than, and have a level of Haki that the Admirals don't. I don't think there's that much information that suggests that the admirals are at that level. Can we start the stream topic? Yeah, we can start the stream topic. We can start the stream topic as soon as we get to 100 likes because we are almost there. If scabbards can, why couldn't the admirals? The scabbards can deal advanced armament damage. I think people are asking, which Kaido says is too shallow. Like, it does do damage. I think people are asking, can they do significant damage, right? But I think they could still do significant damage, too. Morge, please explain why you think Big Mom and Kaido are relative. Because they fought for like 24 hours straight in a stalemate, which usually we say makes characters pretty close. I don't think they're literally equal, but the author usually does those things for a reason, so he wants to establish something somewhat relative, right? I think people are saying like, well, they weren't taking it seriously and stuff, but they literally say we're gonna pick up our fight to our death after we take over the world, right? So they themselves are labeling it a fight to the death, right? Tiptio Treviso, thanks for the 5. Do you think Blackbeard will surpass Emu's tanking when he steals his fruit and fights against Dragon Shanks, Mihawk plus Admirals to set him up versus Luffy? I don't know about plus Admirals. But what I do think is Blackbeard could potentially force the immortality surge. I think somebody is dying in the final war. I think somebody's dying. I don't know who. But I feel like Law is a pretty good bet. So I could imagine another especially because he's walking around with a Chekhov's gun, right? So I could imagine an immortality surgery being forced upon him or something like that. Or like Blackbeard forcing an immortality surgery to happen. Alright, everybody. We got to add in, first let's add in some late points before I forget. Let's add in some late points. So I was 15 minutes late. So let's do this. Just due diligence. Here we go. All right. So currently, for those of you who missed it, I must make an In Defense of Wano video to upload by June 5th, 2026. It is truly tragic. And then because some of you may have missed something else, here we go. One Dream Studio is offering the most insane deal that we have ever had. The most insane deal that we've ever had. Buy 2, get 4. Buy 2, get 4, mix and match between any collection. So if you love the island posters, you could get 1 island poster, 5 boss posters. You could get 3 boss posters, 3 ships posters. Everything is back. Everything is back for this month and this month only. It's all there. And you can mix and match whatever you want to get a bundle of 6 posters, however you want. All the V2s, the second versions we had, the limited editions we had are back. The things that are not back, like we said, Going Merry, the original version of Going Merry is gone forever. We are offering as a consolation the Skypiea version of Going Merry, which is brand new. Rocks and Emu were only available for last month, so they're gone now, but we are offering a Dami Reversey Rocks. We also have some new posters. We've got Shamrock, we've got Garling, we've got Ace's Ship Striker, my personal little favorite out of our new batches. We've got Maxim. We've got the Puffing Tom. I'm sorry, the Puffing Tom might actually be my favorite out of the new batch. And then, yeah, we just got everything. Everything that wasn't an exclusive to a given month is back. So use buy 2, get 4. Get the deal while you can. Yeah, and then the last thing is our Instagram, which I'm going to share for you guys right here. Our Instagram is providing... What the fuck? Yeah. Our Instagram, we're offering a giveaway here as well. If you go follow the Instagram, you have a chance to win an entire collection. So that's actually being picked tomorrow, the winner of the Instagram. Ignore this. This was something else. But we're doing another giveaway. The winner of that giveaway is being announced tomorrow. So it's not going to be picked on stream. We're just going to pick it. And then that person will get an entire collection of their choosing, either the Islands collection, Boss Posters collection, etc. So I'm going to link you guys the Instagram. If you make a purchase, you get double entry into the Instagram giveaway. But every person who's a follower on the Instagram is entered into the giveaway. So if you follow the Instagram, you're entered in the giveaway. It'll be picked tomorrow. If you do a purchase, you're double entered into the Instagram giveaway, so you double your odds. All right. Make sure to get your Wondery posters, and with that, let's get into our top 30. Let's get into it. All right. You know what? I'm gonna do a Google Sheet. Hold on. Let's do a Google Sheet for this. I'm gonna delete this board. Yeah, do we do a Google Sheet? I'll do a Google Sheet. I like Google Sheet for this. Let's see, top 30. Man, we got so many top 30s. All right. This is an all-time. Hold on. Yeah, let's do this. Okay. Top 30, 2025. So I'm reusing one that we did before. You'll see it in a second. I feel like this must be from 2024 or something. All right. You know what? Yeah, I'll do this. Yeah, let's do this. Okay. Do top 30, and here's what I'm going to do. So last time I had a lot of reasoning. We're just going to duplicate this, and then we're going to see what changed. All right? 2025. Oops. 2025. Okay. Here we go. So let's just actually no, this is too. I don't like this. That's not fun. I'll use this as a reference just to see what changed, but I think it's more fun to see it all as we go, and I might just copy paste some of the reasoning because I like posting some of the reasoning just to have it, you know? Okay. Does that Shiki in Marineford is relative to Garp? Shiki in Marineford? Oh, Shiki when he showed up to Marineford? I think that Shiki in his prime was Yonko level, but just not on the higher end of things. He might have been just maybe not Yonko level. It's complicated because like there was a period of time in God Valley that it definitely felt like he was being built up like that. But now I think maybe he reached Admiral level or something. Maybe, yeah, let's just say Admiral. My opinion of Shiki has decreased. But a very strong Admiral, I would imagine. Chizzer2, thanks for the 5. Hi, Morge. Before we start, I want to get one stupid question in. What's your favorite crackpot theory? Not serious at all. Mine is Luffy's Crocodile's mom. I mean, if we're saying one that's not serious, I think that's a fun one. That's a fun one. We could say the Zoro's racist one. All right, it's modern day characters. We will do an all-time top 30 by the end of this year as well. We're doing top 30 alive. Yeah. Yeah, I think Shiki's clearly below Kaido and Big Mom. So probably an Admiral. Type character. I don't think Shiki took several days to be beaten. Tip to you. I don't think it was several days. Okay. Let's get into it. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start by just going off the cuff. We'll go off the cuff and then we'll see what we feel like afterwards. These chips I'm eating, by the way, very healthy chips. They're wheat and grain. They're wheat and grain type chips. All right. One, emu. Two, I got dragon. I got Mihawk. Shanks. Now I'm stuck. Mihawk, Shanks. I got Akainu over Luffy due to no. I think Akainu got Conqueror's Haki. I'll just add that. I feel like I really have to clarify with Akainu. I feel like I really have to clarify with Akainu. Akainu. Luffy. Loki. No. Loki, Luffy. Luffy, Loki, Loki, Luffy. The thing is, with Luffy, the problem is just time limit shit. You know? The problem is time limit stuff. I think Luffy at his peak is probably above Loki, I guess, but yeah, I just don't know. Yeah, Shamrock I think would be pretty strong. I don't think it'll be actually as strong as Shanks though. One second. All right. Loki over Luffy is purely because of time limit stuff. I think the time limit is severely limiting for Luffy personally. Because if I think Luffy's even like... I think Loki's very strong. I think Loki's very strong. So if Loki's like close to Luffy, like right here, then because of time limit, I think Luffy would take it, or Loki would take it. Yeah, there's also just like a lot of hints at Loki being crazy strong. Gaban, Taptiu says, Gaban legitimately thought that Luffy soloed Kaido, and he still thought that Loki would be potentially too much for him. Warkiri, I'm no longer putting as high because I think Garling. I think I personally severely overestimated the Gorosei. Okay, I think I personally severely overestimated the Gorosei. I think Garling is still the strongest Gorosei. Gorosei. So Warkiri would be below him. But even though we saw that Luffy was struggling to damage Warkiri, I believe that if Luffy really put his mind to it or some shit, he'd be able to. You know, like Gaban even told him you're not using Conqueror's Haki as well as you could. So I feel like I'm gonna try to not read too much into that. You know? Venus Jura right after Warkiri. I'm gonna go ahead and put out Garp, and then Aokiji here. Then I'm gonna put, no, I'll put Venus Juro. Then I'll put Blackbeard. Then I'll put Kizaru. Then I'll put Mars. I put Fujitora above Mars. I don't know. Fujitora, Jupiter, Green Bull. Saturn's dead, so I don't gotta put him. Mars or Fujitora? Mars has a lot of aura in a lot of his scenes. Shamrock. I'm gonna go ahead and put Shamrock. I'll put Shamrock there. I think Shamrock is not going to be as strong as Shanks. I think Shamrock is stronger than the Elders right now. Kind of, I'm going to go ahead and put an asterisk. There's no clue that any Gorse is stronger than his colleagues. We see differences in performance very blatantly. You can compare Luffy versus Saturn and Jupiter to Luffy versus Valkyrie. It's a significant difference. I also think that you can kind of just track it based on, I think it was pretty straightforward. Like, Oda tends to do this shit, right? Like King, Queen, Jack, right? Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. That also seems to kind of fit with their showings over the course of that battle. We're counting Kaido and Big Mom as dead. Do a poll for Shanks. Sure, I can do a poll for Shanks versus Mihawk. But this is just out of curiosity. This is not... I'm not going to change the list based off of that. Let's get the stream likes up to 150. Let's get the stream likes up to 150. The scale of One Piece has become pretty insane. Because we've reached a point that clear Admiral level characters are now barely scraping into the top 20. Tom, thanks to 2. Is Judge still top 5 or is he closer to top 7 now? I think he's actually gone up. The more information that we've gotten, I think he's actually gone up. Yeah, let's get the stream likes up to 150. So is Kid dead? I'm gonna go ahead and not rank Kid for this. Did I rank him last time? Let's see. Did we rank Kid last time? I don't know if this was the most recent one. Okay, so last time we included Kid. I don't know if we still give him the benefit of the doubt. Okay, then continuing on. I got Rayleigh, Gabon, Ben Beckman, Zoro, Yamato. Now I'm going to put Yamato above Zoro because I think Zoro can't control his Conqueror's Haki just yet. I think when Zoro's clicking, he's above Yamato, like King of Hell mode and everything, and definitely Ashura. I think King of Hell Zoro is equal to Yamato. I think Ashura Zoro is above Yamato. That's what I would say. I think Ashura Zoro is actually very high, but Ashura Zoro isn't a consistent thing. Zoro is very difficult to rate right now because it's like, how do you rate him? People still have Shanks above Mihawk. Look, I'm not gonna. You guys know that for a long time I've been Shanks over Mihawk, so I'm not gonna tell you guys that you're wrong because I still think the possibility is there. I still think the window's there, but it would mean that Shanks has to be able to do things that even Roger and Rox can't do. That possibility is there. Oda has basically talked about how Shanks is his self-insert, how he's a character that's going to be of comparable importance to Luffy in the final saga. Shanks is a very important character in the story, and he's probably one of Oda's top 3 favorite characters in One Piece or something, right? It's the character that Oda views himself as. So the possibility is always there. I'm just not going to waste time arguing it. I'd be happy to change it at the end of year of 2026 if we get some new information. It's not worth going that speculative for me to argue when we have a more basic argument that we can follow that the story is giving us at the moment, you know? But it does seem like people still have Shanks by an edge over Mihawk overall. Ben higher than old Gaban and Rayleigh? You know, I thought that, but I thought about it again, and I'm just like, the scene that Gaban did with Luffy and Zoro, it's pretty, like, that's pretty damn good. You know, that's pretty damn good. Ben Beckman, we also don't know if he's a Conqueror's Haki user or anything like that. I imagine Ben Beckman is very skilled Haki-wise in general, but don't know. The poll used to be 80% Shanks and 50 to 20% Mihawk. I think it was never 80% Shanks in my chat, but it would be. I think there was times it was in the 70s. Let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. Morge really likes those healthy chips. That's the thing. That's what's crazy about this. I legitimately find myself really enjoying these chips. And I think it's always cool when you accidentally find something that's healthy that turns out you really like, you know? These chips I think are great. Yeah, I got Yamato, Zoro. I got, let's see. Do I have Law above Marco or Marco above Law? I'm not even going to include Kid now, till Kid is confirmed alive, okay? I think Marco was more impressive against Big Mom than Law was, so I'm going to give it to Marco. Marco, Law. Sabo's been training. So if we pretend Sabo's been training really good, then maybe he's higher now. Oh shit, Gunko though. I think Gunko's in there. I think I'd take Gunko over Lucci. I don't know. Gunko or oh, Sanji. Fuck, I can't believe I forgot Sanji. This is really difficult. My heart wants to put Sanji in here. My heart wants to put Sanji Katakuri. But Gunko... Shit. I feel like Gunko has a spot in here. Killing him. Oh, Hancock. Fuck. Okay, here's the characters that I'm stuck with. Okay, Hancock. Hancock's probably in there. Hancock, Killingham, Sommers, Gunko. What's stopping me is I don't want to remove. Are there any old men left that I want to include? Are there any old men left? I feel like Sengoku is supposed to be in here somewhere. Sengoku feels like he should be in here somewhere. I think. I no longer care about Kong. I'm going to take Kong off the list. I used to try and find places to put Kong. Seraphim are an interesting conversation, but I think none of them are concretely Yonko First Mate level until they grow older. Where Kaido and Big Mom rank? If Kaido and Big Mom were in the rankings, then they would both be. I think I'd have Kaido. If Kaido and Big Mom were in the rankings, right? I think I'd have Kaido. I think I'd probably put Kaido here. And I'd probably put Big Mom. I think I'd still put Big Mom above Luffy. I'd have Kaido top 5 still. Big Mom's tricky because, like, I think she's supposed to scale to close to Kaido. It's just a question of, like, what does that mean? Luffy, the problem is the stamina issue. Stamina issue is the problem. I know, okay, Big Mom, here, I tell you right now. Big Mom's floor for me, Big Mom's floor would be here. I think, or sorry, Big Mom's floor would be here, and then I might rank her higher. Kaido's floor would be here. I do think there's a possibility that Loki is stronger than a lot of us are giving him credit for. I think Loki is potentially stronger than we're giving him credit for. Because his birth is just hyping him up like crazy. His introduction hypes him up like crazy. I think Loki could be stronger than Kaido. I think that's a possibility. But at the moment, just based on current information that we had, if I were to rank Kaido, I'd put him somewhere in this range, okay? And if I were to rank Big Mom, then I'd probably, at best, put her above Loki, and at worst, have her above Garling. That's how I'm feeling right now. Blackbeard way too low. Dude was taking a lot of damage from fucking Law in an ambush that he planned with his entire fucking squad of Yonko commanders. He's not that high. Okay, these are the characters I now want to find a way to place. I've heard the arguments that Sabo should be above King. I've heard those arguments. I just don't fully see it, but I think for narrative significance, we can do it. We can put Sabo above King. Okay? I could see it as a possibility. I just don't fully believe it. Marco did better against Big Mom than Law did. So I think that's pretty easy for me. Zoro, Yamato, like this right here is entering the range where like you can actually go toe to toe with a Yonko solo, right? Law went toe to toe with Blackbeard, but Blackbeard is not a Kaido or Big Mom type, right? Like I'm talking Yonko level as in Big Mom plus, right? And Law can't go 1v1 with Big Mom. So from here on, you can kind of do stuff with a Yonko by yourself and be very effective. Ben Beckman, I'm giving benefit of the doubt. Gabon, based on the Luffy and Zoro scene, I still think, and just his knowledge, I think he's just a better hockey user than Zoro. I think Zoro's peak, if you were to use Ashura again, that's a lot higher, but that's different. And then Rayleigh, I give credit for being above Gabon. Jupiter, Green Bull, this is like officially Admiral level. Sabo is stronger than Green Bull. He wasn't stronger than Fujitora at all. He wasn't even close. And then Fujitora and Green Bull fought roughly to a draw. So how is Sabo stronger than Green Bull? I just don't understand Sabo fans. How is Sabo stronger than Zoro, Kid, and Law? Zoro's biggest feat is taking on Kaido 1v1, and while the majority of bones in his body were broken, and permanently scarring him in a 1v1. What is Sabo's? I just don't even get it. I think it's just because people like Sabo. I don't think there's any arguments for him, though. He hasn't done anything. His only thing that he did was he fought against a Fujitora who was not trying, and he was actually losing against Fujitora who wasn't trying. Or he was struggling. He was shown to be severely struggling. Why is Shamrock so high? Just because he shanks his twin? Yeah, we're just being speculative with that. We're just being generous, Jim. Let's get stream likes up to 200 real quick. How about Sabo's hype and narrative? But so does fucking... So you think Sabo has more hype and narrative than fucking Zoro? The fucking first mate of the Pirate King? Zoro is obviously far more significant story-wise. Like, that's literally Luffy's right hand. Like, the main character's right hand. And he has Conqueror's Haki and shit. Like, how does Sabo where's Sabo's Conqueror's Haki if Oda's hyping him up so much compared to Zoro? Like, in terms of hype and narrative significance, he's not close to Zoro. What are you guys talking about? Sabo's pain tolerance is garbage. A disabled old man got up before him. Read the 12-player spread, Lorge. That's like saying I could compare it to every single spread Oda's ever drawn in the story. The fucking Straw Hat... The Straw Hats don't need to be in the spread. They're automatically more significant than the spread. Do you want... Do you know how many spreads Oda's done with Zoro in them? You know that Oda does color spreads featuring all the Straw Hats fucking every 10 chapters, right? Kobe has displayed more impressive hockey feats than Sabo. If you guys want to start the Kobe greater than Sabo discussion, I'm on board. His age and role in the Revolutionary Army negates his narrative lacking to Zoro. Unless you think the Revolutionary Army is more important than the Straw Hat Pirates, which they're not, because the story is about the Straw Hat Pirates. If anything, that further proves his lack of significance compared to Zoro. Because Sabo is the first mate of the Revolutionaries, but Zoro is the first mate of the fucking Straw Hats, who are the most important... I don't even need to explain this, right? The Straw Hats are going to be more important in the... I feel like I'm going insane. Do I need to explain, like, the main characters of the story and what the story's about? The Revolutionaries will be important for sure, but... First mate of the Straw Hats, the actual main characters, or first mate of a secondary group in the story. That's important, but... It's not comparable. I'm so confused. All right. Kobe greater than Sabo isn't a bad take. I mean, hockey. It depends on if you think Kobe used Conqueror's Haki or not. All right, let's get into this. So this is the section that's going to be tricky, right? I'd say really here is where it gets difficult. No, not here, because... Okay, Sengoku I think is my trickiest spot. I don't know where to put Sengoku. I think he was still Admiral level pre-time skip. Don't know where he is now. I think Prime, Rayleigh, and Gaban are above Sengoku. But I think Sengoku has probably deteriorated less than they have. I don't think Sengoku seems to have fallen off that much. Just because, no, because now Oda's drawing him with white hair and stuff. I feel like usually Oda visually communicates if a character's, like, a lot older and weaker now. Like, Big Mom, even though she's very old, Oda would always draw her as though, like, she's not like Whitebeard. Like, Whitebeard was, like, fucking, like, ancient. the way he was drawn. Rayleigh, gray hair, Gabon, gray hair. Big Mom still seemed to be not youthful, but if you had told us that she was in her 50s, we'd have been like, okay. Same with Sengoku. He doesn't look that old pre-time skip. Garp Oda attempts to make look old. That's why Sengoku is very difficult for me to rate, because my impression is that it's only post-time skip that Oda seems to imply that Sengoku's now aging. There are literally only 2 panels where Sabo struggles versus Fujitora. Yeah, but that's the point, which is, one, the fight isn't that many panels. So the point is more so there are, in a very short fight, there are multiple panels that show that Sabo is struggling, right? But 2, the point is that Fujitora is not trying. That's the big problem with it, which is that Fujitora is going like minimal effort. So, because he's not even actually attempting to really win this battle, right? So, on the one hand, it's like, even if we were to give Sabo, like, even if Fujitora was trying, the implication is that Fujitora is a bit stronger than him, because Sabo is shown to be struggling a little bit, and Fujitora is not, right? So that means that, at minimum, Sabo is not Admiral level, right? He's not beating Green Bull or anything like that, right? But then on top of that, Fujitora wasn't trying. So that drops Sabo's stock even further, because it's like, okay, you're fighting an Admiral who wasn't putting in effort, and you were still the one struggling. That's not a good look, you know? JWP, thanks for the 10. Do you remember that weird time where Sanji fans swore that Sanji already had Future Sight? I feel like since Advanced Kankasaki became the main thing, I haven't seen that take anymore. Lol. I think there were debates about like how he dodged the jelly bean if he didn't have Future Sight, which I don't think is like a real, discussion. The entire fight was a sham, though, but then Sabo has no feats. So either you have the Fujitora fight, which is like, okay, well, this is kind of giving us an idea of how Sabo stacks to an Admiral, which is, he's not equal to Admirals, but, like, he can still, like, fight him, which is good. That's good. It doesn't put him above, Yamato, Zoro, stuff like that, but it's good. If you remove that, then it's like Sabo is nothing other than beating up on Burgess, so then he's not even on the list. So you kind of got to pick it. Sanji can't beat Katakuri. Okay. Here's the thing. Someone's going, because I don't think Gunko. I think Gunko doesn't beat these guys. I might be biased, but I think Gunko doesn't beat these guys. I don't think Gunko. It's not just about 1v1 matchups, because like you can lose a particular matchup but still be stronger than a character overall. It's more so your spread, right? Like how good do you do against a lot of characters, But with Gunko, I don't think she's beating the. I think it's kind of clear that Gunko wasn't going to beat Gabon, so that's why Gunko had to do the hostage thing, right? So I think that there's like I think really strong hockey users beat Gunko. Gunko can't ever damage like, this is just a lost fight, right? Law put up a really good showing against Blackbeard. I'm going to give it to him. He's got also such a great ability to kind of deal with a lot of Gunko's bullshit. Sabo, I think I'm just going to give it to him as well. King, Gunko can't damage. Katakuri's got Future Sight. Sanji's very fast. I'm going to take Gunko off the list. I'm taking Gunko off the list. Sommer's obviously not on the list, I think. I don't even know why I put him. So Hancock's got to go in there. Killingham, I think Killingham's got a great ability, but it's more so for a large-scale ability. I think that if you made Killingham just fight another character, I don't think in a 1v1 setting, and he can't draw on like a million fears, I think it's not the same, right? So what we're trying to figure out is Hancock and Sengoku, where do they go? And I have a feeling that I think I might be taking Sanji off the list. Unless I try and argue Sanji above King, which I think I kind of believe. I'm not sure. Let's get Hancock and Sengoku in there. Okay, I think okay, hold on. Hancock is very difficult to scale for obvious reasons. I'm going to put Hancock here. I think that Hancock is maybe a little bit overrated. We did see, for example, so we saw like Law versus Blackbeard, and that was an extended battle, right? Hancock got caught very quickly by Blackbeard. And you could say, well, that's not indicative of everything, right? But maybe it was a surprise attack, etc. But I just don't think Hancock has any actually good showings. So I think a lot of it is us giving credit to what her ability can theoretically do, and a lot of us assuming, like, does she have advanced Conqueror's Hockey, or is she just a Conqueror's Hockey user? I don't know. I don't know if I even believe this. Like, I personally want to put Hancock here above Sabo. But it's the feats thing, right? Sabo has feats, Hancock doesn't. I feel like people joke about potential man stuff. I feel like Hancock is potential woman in One Piece. She could turn you to stone or whatever. She might have advanced Conqueror's Hockey. And then it's like 0 feats, 0 relevance. 7 times her ability didn't work. On paper, she beats so many characters, right? But I feel like we're at a point in the story where I need to start. It's so competitive at this tippy top level, like at the bottom of this top 30, that I'm just gonna start valuing characters who have shown more a little bit. And then I know Sengoku's going in here somewhere. I just don't know where to fucking put Sengoku, man. I feel like he's somewhere. I feel like pre-time skip Sengoku is higher. I feel like post-time skip Sengoku might have let himself go a little bit, but it's just also really difficult to accurately guess. Is he above really Gabon? I don't know. I don't know. I think he's above most of the first mates still, personally. I mean, Fleet Admiral. He was Fleet Admiral 2 years ago. Yeah, that's kind of silly. He was Fleet Admiral 2 years ago. I don't think he's fallen that far, right? So, is he? I think. Do you guys think that's too low? Here's the thing. I think Prime, Rayleigh, and Gabon are at least as strong, if not stronger, than Prime Sengoku. But I think that Sengoku may not have deteriorated as much as them. Because you look at, like, Rayleigh and Gabon pre-time skip, and they're genuinely old, retired men. Sengoku is still in it, in the Marines, and he looks fucking young. Like, he looks like he's in his 50s at worst or whatever. It's just post-time skip where suddenly he's gotten gray hair, and now he's snacking on crackers like this. He's a lot like me. He's literally snacking on these type of crackers, you know? I'm gonna bump him up. I don't think he's fallen off that much. Also, he held down Garp physically. I'm gonna go ahead and put him here. More, do you think Sengoku declined like Garp in just 2 years? Logically, you would say no. Right? Logically, you would say no. But One Piece logic is never logical. Big difference. Sengoku also has a Devil Fruit. Devil Fruits don't really decline with age. Whitebeard, in his prime and youth, was doing the same stuff with his Devil Fruit as he was at Marine Forward. It's your hockey that falls off. So I think Sengoku being here, I think I like that. And that brings us to our difficult decision. Here's the thing. Katakuri is definitely not above King. I think Katakuri just loses too many matchups, whereas King is like actually a problematic matchup for a lot of characters. Sanji I could argue him above King. What did I say last year? Let me see. I fucking forgot about Crocodile. I'm forgetting some characters. Let's see. Who am I forgetting here? We have all the... There's Crocodile. I put Sanji below King. To do what to do. What to do, what to do. Justin, thanks for the 5. Bellemere's death also happened because there was no other way to save her. Girls, thanks to Arlong sinking all escape ships. They could have hit her on the island or whatever if they wanted to, but like, if you want to look, like, Oda does make it kind of, like, he even has the characters say, what is it, probably chapter, I looked at this recently, I feel like it's chapter 77, ooh, not 771, might be 78, says Bellemere, even if it means I'll lose my life. And he literally says, how could you do such a stupid thing? It's called out in the story as being stupid, right? Oda's characters do really stupid things. He just does. They literally call it in the story as stupid, but I think Oda finds it more noble that they go out doing a stupid thing than living purely logically, you know? And I do like that as part of One Piece. I do like that. Random guy, thanks to 5. Just my interpretation, but King and Queen felt like they were portrayed as a duo similar to Kaku and Jabrura, not a big gap like Katakuri and Smoothie. Yeah, I think that's why, like, I also... This is, by the way, why I think I kind of mentally think of the tiers as, like, first mate, and then Yonko's second and third commanders, I kind of, like, lump that together, because for some, I feel like there's, like... Sorry, I feel like King and Queen are clearly a step up from Jack, whereas with Big Mom Pirates, it felt like Katakuri is clearly a step up from Smoothie and Cracker. So I get what you're saying. But with King and Queen, like, it's just so close, right? So, okay, I get what you're saying in terms of, like, Sanji should be higher than King in that case. I think that there's the argument. I might go ahead and put Sanji there. Part of it's my own bias. Like, obviously like Sanji better than King. I think the anime also makes King look really, really strong. So I think that also skews perspectives a little bit. I think I also just don't feel right not having Sanji in the top 30. So part of it is just bias. I hope Sanji gets a buff this arc. Hopefully he gets... I was obviously resistant at first, but I've come around to it mentally. Hopefully he does get Conqueror's Haki, and then that kind of just keeps him in these discussions without as much, you know, back and forth in the near future. Do we deadass have Sanji below Sabo? Sanji lacks feats. That's the biggest issue. He just does. With Sanji, ultimately the biggest thing that he's always going to have going for him is he is supposed to be a wing alongside Zoro, right? But the reality is that at different points in the story, the gaps between them shift. So you never know. Sometimes they're really close, sometimes they're far, then they come back close. The reality is, like, until we know where Sanji's, like, put it this way, until Sanji's exoskeleton came together, there was actually legitimately a solid period of time where Luffy and Zoro are probably a lot closer in strength than Sanji was. That's why Sanji got 2 upgrades in the Onigashima battle. First, he got his exoskeleton, and then he also got Ifrit Jambe. Right? So that's an important thing to note. So you never know with Sanji just how close he's supposed to be to Zoro, but Zoro gets a lot of fights and a lot of feats, right? He gets a lot of fights, a lot of feats. With Sanji, a lot of it is just assuming that he's supposed to be in the same, like, that's where it's open interpretation. Like, how close is he supposed to be to Zoro? And it varies at different points in time, right? So it's not fair to really have Sanji above, even if I personally believe that Sanji might be above like a Sabo or a Law or something like that right now, I don't think it's fair to do that when these characters, like Law has fought at this point Blackbeard, like 2 Yonko, right? 3 Yonko if you count like the rooftop stuff. Like if you count the rooftop stuff, Law has fought a lot of Yonko, like Kaido, Big Mom, Blackbeard. He has a lot of examples to go off of. Even if I think that 1v1, even 1v1 against Blackbeard, he did actually phenomenally well, right? Marco, ton of shit to go off of. So much stuff. Like, every Admiral, Big Mom, he went 1v1 and actually made her leave. Straight up made her leave. That's like one of the most underrated feats in the story. She was literally just like, even though it's me and Perospero against just you, Marco, this isn't... you are actually too much of a hassle to deal with, which a Yonko's pretty much never like with like a first mate-esque or like commander type character, right? Marco's got great feats. He's got multiple Yonko. He fought King and Queen at the same time. He's got phenomenal feats. Like, these are all characters with just very good feats. Sabo, even as much as I like roast the Fujitora situation, that is still a thing where he's fighting an Admiral for an extended period of time. Sanji's just got the Kizaru laser kick. And then Queen. And the Kizaru laser kick is good. Like, that was meant to be an impactful scene where even Kizaru was shocked that Sanji did it. That's good. But it's so minute compared to, like, this is a very competitive division that he's in. That's the problem. It doesn't feel... Basically, if I went ahead and put Sanji, like here even, or something, I don't even know. I don't know how Sanji could damage Marco. Again, it's not about matchups, but he's got, his biggest thing is his speed, and he's got damage. I could see myself putting Sanji, like, here. I could see myself putting Sanji here, but it doesn't feel fair. Like, maybe in my heart, I'm saying here. Like, my heart or my gut, I'm saying here. I think, in terms of reasonableness, I don't think I can put him there until he does something. Zoro isn't close to Gear 5. I was saying for a period of time, Luffy and Zoro, until Luffy got all of his power-ups on the roof. But even if looking at that, Ashura Zoro is close to Luffy's peak. Peak for peak, Zoro's not far off. Ashura Zoro, even when Zoro was, like, handicapped severely and was meant to be in a full-body cast, still got the better of Kaido and permanently scarred him. And the big thing that people don't take into account with that is that Kaido was serious against Zoro. He was very serious against Zoro because Kaido had said a big deal had been made repeatedly that both Kaido and Big Mom were freaked out by the aura coming out from Enma, and they were really trying to avoid getting cut by that sword. So there's no excuse like Kaido was just like testing Zoro out or seeing what he could do. That wasn't the case with Zoro. With Zoro specifically, Kaido was like, I don't want to get touched by him. So peak for peak, Zoro's like in the same ballpark as Luffy. He's peak for peak, Zoro can... There's not much argument about that. Zoro's peak, Ashura, literally scarred a Yonko in a 1v1 while Zoro was the handicapped one, right? And we have no further data on it because, again, Zoro was handicapped, right? But peak-wise, it's very high, which makes sense because Zoro's an advanced Conqueror's Haki user. Advanced Conqueror's Haki is basically what you need to get to the Yonko tier. You just can't use Ashura all the time. Sanji above Hancock. I could see that. Paper cut scar. That's how I know it's just like power scaling dumb stuff that people are getting too into it. Scars in One Piece are always symbolic. Always symbolic. It's not about actual damage done. Symbolic. Scars in One Piece carry tremendous symbolic significance in every single instance. Zoro's own scar is from fucking Mihawk. Kaido's scar that he carries from Odin. Luffy's scar from Akainu, the memory of Marineford, etc. Shanks, Blackbeard, any scar in One Piece, big deal. Characters normally do not get scarred in the story, despite taking like shit tons amounts of damage. Normally they're never scarred. So if you're getting scarred, Oda's saying that this is a very big deal. It's, if anybody who downplays the scar is basically, like, I make fun of people who are like, power scaling doesn't matter, yada yada. Because power scaling does matter, but anybody who downplays the scar is basically screaming like, I literally am so up my own ass about agenda that I'm straight up gonna ignore all like actual writing, like thematic, substantive writing in the story, and pretend I don't understand the concept of author's intent to try and just pretend like I'm diagnosing the scar like I'm an ER doctor in the real world or something. It's like, no, it's a fucking story. Things have meaning. Like, to go to the point that you're just like, well, the scar didn't actually do this, so that's just like, okay, now you're basically just being like, okay, well, the only thing on your mind is power scaling, and you're not actually trying to engage with the story, you know? Scar is significant, is very significant. Second most significant thing that happened to Kaido outside of actually getting his ass beat by Luffy in the rooftop battle. Alright. How do I feel about this? I feel like he might be too low. I just don't know what to do with him. Comfortable with Zoro here. Comfortable with Marco above Law still. Law definitely has a lot better feats than Sabo. Sabo to Hancock. I think Sabo Blackbeard comparison. Good point of comparison. Hancock to Sanji. Maybe we put Hancock above Sanji. Lucky Root greater than Sanji? Because we're saying Ben Beckman is higher, right? Why do we give Ben Beckman so much credit? I don't know. Werb says, I can't. What's up, Werb? I can't imagine the former fleet admiral who's only been retired for 2 years being weaker than Green Bull of all admirals. I agree, but I think we also shit on Green Bull a little bit too much because of the Shanks situation. Because Green Bull and Fujitora fought, and it's implied it was basically like an even fight. So even if we don't like Green Bull, I guess my question is, do I think Fujitora beats Sengoku? I think Fujitora probably beats Sengoku. Fujitora today? How do I feel about Fujitora versus Mars? I don't know. This is really difficult. Like, look, if I were to highlight all points that I'm confused, here, let's say this. Here, if we were to highlight things where I'm very confused or very uncertain, uncertainty of certainty of placement. All right, I would say, or no. Okay, let's just highlight places that have a high degree of uncertainty. Uncertain spots. Very uncertain. So that's red. We should go down. Okay. Uncertain Very uncertain. I mean, obviously uncertain about the whole thing, because how are we supposed to know, right? But if we're to say some areas that I feel uncertain, so I feel like I'm very uncertain here. Um, no, this is stupid. This is stupid because this is just gonna be. This is stupid. This is stupid. I thought that'd be fun for a second, but then I'm like, no, the whole thing is is really hard to call, right? A lot of these spots can shift around. Here, let me give my reasoning, right? So some of this I'll just copy and paste. Let's see. Let's just copy and paste. Mihawk. At this point, no evidence uh, of hockey techniques that would stop Shanks from being a swordsman. Mihawk's basically, his thing is pretty much predicated on where I rank Shanks, right? Most hyped, most frequently, let's say that, hyped hockey user of modern day. Do we need to say that much more? Longest tenured Yonko. Oda's made it clear in interviews he's a big deal for an end of game story, right? Yeah, let's say most speculative pick, narrative purposes, as Fleet Admiral and for future battle with Luffy. If he hasn't awakened, then he's just one spot above. Okay. Loki, to be hyped to be Yonko level, his strength from birth also was strongest baby in One Piece history. Only putting him above Luffy because Luffy's Gear 5 has stamina issues. Could he beat Loki in 5 minutes? Nah, we don't have to get into all of that. Joy Boy hockey comparison should be enough. Yeah, we got it. How is Shanks too speculative, but Akainu isn't? But Akainu isn't. Oh, because Akainu, all of the feats that we've seen of Akainu, because Akainu's is the wait. How is Shanks too speculative, but Akainu isn't? No, Akainu is the most speculative. I'm saying Akainu is the most speculative, right? From everything we've seen of Akainu, he should be just slightly above Aokiji. That's basically it. But it's speculative based on narrative significance. Based on narrative significance and how he's been written as a character, it seems like he fits the mold for Conqueror's Haki user. And obviously, Fleet Admiral of the Marines, previous Fleet Admiral, had Conqueror's Haki, so there's a little bit of that. Seems like he's likely to fight Luffy, so he's not going to be able to do that unless he has Conqueror's Haki. Yeah, just a lot of things. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. Green Bull over Sengoku. I'm giving Green Bull seemingly tied with Fujitora. Right, so he's seemingly tied with Fujitora. Fuck it, we can move Sengoku up. Honestly, that's where I feel like Sengoku should go. It's just I know that Green Bull. I don't know. I feel like Green Bull shouldn't be far off from Fujitora. Why is Kid not in the top 30? I included him in last time's top 30 because I think we were still somewhat fresh off of him having been defeated, and I was like, I'm not gonna count him out yet. This is not me counting him out, but this is me basically saying like, I'm not gonna put him back in the list until we get confirmation. You know, like at this point, he is now shifting towards the Kaido Big Mom territory of he's starting to his fate is uncertain enough that I don't feel like putting him in, even if I don't necessarily think he's dead. Green Bull couldn't beat Morley though. No, it's a stab. That's because it's literally explained in the chapter that the admirals are having to hold back because they're in Marishua. It's literally explained in the chapter that otherwise they would be able to beat the revolutionaries. The other part is that Fujitora couldn't beat Karasu, and it was actually implied that Fujitora wasn't trying to hold back because Fujitora didn't care about these celestial dragons. So, if anything, it's two factors. It seems like Green Bull was fighting the stronger of the two Revolutionary Army commanders because Morley seems to be hyped to be the next strongest after Sabo. So one, Green Bull was given the stronger matchup, and two, out of the two of them, it's implied that Fujitora wasn't really caring about Celestial Dragon damage, where it's clearly established that Green Bull is having to hold back because of the Celestial Dragons. So, again, that's not to say Green Bull's above Fujitora. That's more so to say that it's just like, if you were to look at all of Green Bull's showings, which is captured King and Queen, captured Weevil. He took on all of the scabbards at the same time and captured them. You could argue that Yamato stopped fighting, but still, fighting all the scabbards at the same time is very impressive. Like, he basically did what Kaido did, just with a slightly weaker version of the scabbards, right? And even Kaido, I don't think, could beat all the scabbards and Yamato as they were on the roof necessarily at the same time, because Yamato alone was giving him some trouble. But yeah, like, all of his feats are actually very good. If you look at his resume as an admiral, it's very good. Like, most other admirals don't even capture these Yonko first mate, Yonko commander type characters. Greenbull's taken out a lot of them. It's and then his final thing in his piece is obviously seemingly going even with Fujitora, right? The only reason people shit on Green Bull is because of the Shanks scene. That's really more so to hype Shanks than it is for Green Bull, because you look at his tenure is very good. I don't think that's a horrid take, because that is legitimately, like, if you were to just list Green Bull's resume, it's a very strong resume or are you saying about the Kaido take? Okay, we don't need to go into the Kaido take too much, but like, Kaido was, Yamato is a decent challenge on her own, and then the Scabbards all swarming him at the same time. Let's say Kaido still wins, but the point is that Green Bull is, like, we'll give the respect to Kaido, but the point is that Green Bull, his feat of taking out pretty much all the Scabbards at the same time, is a good feat. Like, that is a pretty good feat. Green Bull's also stated, I've taken on injured fighters in Wano. I'm not arguing that Green Bull's equal to Kaido. I'm just arguing that, like, if we say Kaido's, like, that's what Green Bull did is basically what you would expect from an admiral. You know? What are Garling's feats to justify top 10? Yeah, I'll put Garling. Seems implied to be strongest Gorosei. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. So if anything, that's huge, huge, huge hype to Rocks, because Rocks could basically. I'm just taking where I kind of ranked all the Gorosei already, and just slotted in Garling above them. But I'm trying not to rank him any higher than that because it's just like, how do I say this? If I just saw what happened with Garling in God Valley, he would be way lower on this list. But it seems like today Garling is being implied to be like he's going to be the strongest Gorosei, right? So I'm trying to adjust how I'm viewing the information, and I'm like, okay, I do think that Garling is clearly not Yonko level based on God Valley stuff, but I also think that Garling's the strongest Gorosei today, so I'm trying to adjust that information. So I'm like, okay, my new way of looking at things is that the Gorosei in general are probably not Yonko level. Garling's the best of them, but it is lowering my estimation of the Gorosei in general to a more conservative view of them. So I'm just trying to make my two points of views, which are like Garling is a far way off from Rocks and therefore probably not like a Yonko level character, but Garling is probably stronger than all the Gorosei today. Okay, the way I'm reconciling these pieces of information are the Gorosei are probably a bit weaker than I initially thought, and none of them are truly Yonko level characters. Like none of them would tie with Big Mom. That's how I'm viewing it now. But some of them could be really, really tough. Mort, should I get the jersey? Definitely get the jersey. Just hit the link at the top of the chat. Just hit the link at the top of the chat and get your pre-order in. Dragon isn't more important. I agree. Dragon might not be more important. It might be Shanks. I always feel like they both have co-arguments for that sort of role. Shanks was Oda's character from chapter 1 who he introduced. Dragon was Oda's chapter from chapter 100 he introduced, and chapter 100 is like where the legend begins. They enter the Grand Line and everything. So Oda's kind of bookending the story with these two characters. So they've both got their arguments, you know. Gorosei are between Admiral and Yonko. I just don't know. Like, the thing is that a lot of the Gorosei have Conqueror's Haki, which the Admirals don't. But I feel like the Admirals have better abilities, like fruit-wise. So it's tricky. My feeling right now is I think that Yonko tier, I think, is a slight step up from the Admiral, you know, that whole Admiral Gorosei group, and I kind of put the Admirals and the Gorosei together in one big tier. That's how I'm feeling right now. You got some Gorosei that are pretty embarrassing, like Saturn or Green Bull. Like if Saturn was in here, he'd be right below Green Bull probably. So you got some Gorosei and Admirals that are embarrassing, and then some Gorosei and Admirals that are very impressive, like Warkiri or Aokiji or Kizaru, you know? Tio Treviso, thanks for 2. God, I hope End of Story Blackbeard kills Shanks in a fair 1v1. As long as Blackbeard's gotten the sufficient power-ups, I'm good with that. Luffy, Gear 5 time. Definitely Yonko level, but his time limit puts... I don't think Shamrock is... I don't think he's as strong as Shanks, but might be Yonko level. Being conservative because of what happened after because Garling turned out to be a bust, so not going to overhype a Figarland too fast again. Yeah, too fast again. Putting him bottom of Yonko tier to be conservative. Yeah. Even though he's probably not actually Yonko level based on God Valley, still seems like he's implied to be strongest Gorosei alive today. Warkery. Malik, thanks for the 2. Blackbeard will kill Shanks with the Nika fruit. Blackbeard will kill Shanks with the Nika fruit. With the Nika fruit, that'd be wild. Yeah, I don't know about that. Warkery, clearly gave significant trouble to even Gear 5 Luffy. I give Luffy benefit of the doubt that he would have been able to figure out a way to win, but Warkery is clearly verging on Yonko level. Maybe we are underestimating him. Garp. Took on Blackbeard Pirates plus Aokiji while, while severely handicapped and having to protect his subordinates, established that he is above Aokiji from Aokiji's mouth himself. Aokiji died with Akainu, probably stronger than all current admirals. Venus Juro. I don't know what to say. Next strongest Gorosei after Warkery. Second fastest in One Piece after Kizaru. Plus advanced Conqueror's Haki user. Top tier swordsman. Plus ice powers. We would just do this. Alright. Do we have any issues with the rating so far? Rain Shinobi, thanks a lot. What type of feats / who does Mihawk have to beat to catch up to Shanks' level of feats? Because I can only see Fujitora or maybe Green Bull. I mean, I've said this before. I think Mihawk beats Venus Juro. I think a lot of the Gorosei are set up to be victims of not the Straw Hats, but side characters. Some of our super strong side characters that we've been waiting on to see. I think that we could see a clash between Cross Guild and the Marines, because that's been being built to for some time. So we could see a clash between Mihawk and Fujitora or Mihawk and Green Bull or something, but I don't think it'll be a full conclusive fight. It'll probably be something that makes Mihawk look good. But I think in terms of a fight, if you're hoping for that, for end of story, it's, I think it's, yeah, an end of story. End of story with a Gorosei, like Venus Juro. Mr. Bossum, thanks for the 5. I have Miyako over Shanks in the sword fight, but Shanks fights using other weapons like guns. As for part warriors, Garp is probably top 5 right now. I just disagree with so much what you have to say. I don't go by games, so that's all I could say really there. And Garp being top 5 right now, I think he probably, I mean, he's old and shit. Like, maybe he can't last that long in a fight. But in terms of pure firepower, it does seem like he's got some of the craziest hockey moves in the world today, even today. Time limit doesn't exist anymore. Luffy has used Gear 5 twice in Elbaf with no drawback, but he's used it for short periods of time, right? I thought at one point that time limit didn't exist for Gear 4th anymore, heading up to the Onigashima battle, because Luffy had started just mixing in Gear 4th whenever. But then he used it on the rooftop, and then all of a sudden the time limit was a thing again. So I'm not going to read too much into that. No one placed above a Gorosei can defeat a Gorosei. I just don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true, especially because it's implied that, like, stopping the regeneration is just, like, an application of Conqueror's Haki that Luffy hasn't figured out yet. And Loki factually knows how to do that, you know? I wouldn't be surprised if Shamrock does as well. Blackbeard has 2 most powerful fruits, but still very few good, but still not really any top tier hockey showings. Most importantly, struggled while all right. Kizaru, model, admiral, example. Not much to say. Yeah, model, admiral, example, not much to say. Doesn't have the hockey to be Yonko tier, but can be a nightmare matchup for a lot of characters. Mars, putting him here, his vibes. Lucci's reaction to him, his reaction really do make him seem at least high admiral level. Took a team attack from Luffy and Straw Hats to remove him. Fujitora, solid admiral, needs more feats. Sengoku, I think he's fallen off less than the rest of the old guard, since it's only last 2 years that he finally showed signs of aging, plus was fleet admiral just 2 years ago. Jupiter, weakest Gorosei, weakest admiral, but still fought evenly with Fujitora, captured king/queen, defeated all the scabbards together, defeated all the scabbards together, captured Weevil, etc. All of which should put him above first mates. I think that makes sense, really. Last shown, he was able to stalemate an admiral for some time, but was getting tired. So just under admiral level. Comparable to Rayleigh. Also had great showing against Luffy and Zoro. Seems at least more hockey proficient than Zoro. Ben Beckman, just vibes. Seems like he's supposed to be hyped. Yamato, advanced conquerors, hockey user, though still new to it. Great showing, still mating Kaido for some time. Zoro doesn't yet have a handle on using his advanced conquerors hockey at will. So he should be below Yamato. But his peaks clearly extremely high. We liking the reasoning so far? Is it okay? Anuj, thanks to 2, just came here, but Garling greater than Garp seems criminal. It's just for right now. It's just for right now. It's just alive. All time, of course, that's not the case, you know? We don't know how new to Advanced Kakusaki Yamato is. It seemed like she was awakening it on the rooftop against Kaido. That's what it seemed like to me. It seemed like she was awakening it on the rooftop. A similar example is like we saw her earlier in the Onigashima raid and everything, and like ulti was successfully kind of holding her off. And that's pretty consistent with beforehand. It felt like her growth is mirroring Luffy's a little bit. We saw that when Luffy first showed up to Onigashima, then, you know, he's having hockey clashes and stuff with ulti, where it's kind of a stalemate, right? But then once he goes to the rooftop, then he finally gets his big awakening, and then he levels up significantly. And now he's using Advanced Conqueror's Haki, and he's clashing with Kaido, right? With Yamato, before the rooftop, she's obviously strong, but again, we saw that even ulti was kind of able to hang with her for some time. Whereas if she could use Advanced Conqueror's Haki, it would immediately be over. The same way like Big Mom immediately takes out ulti or page 1, right? Like Tobi Roppo is so far below that, you know? So to me, my interpretation is that still seemed like a new Conqueror's Haki user. Put Law above Green Bull, below Jupiter. I think people are really hung up. The Green Bull scene was meant to hype Shanks. It wasn't meant to suggest that Green Bull. That's what's frustrating. It's like Green Bull is clearly, the rest of his resume is very clearly Admiral level. He's still fought evenly with Fujitora. He's still clearly shown throughout the series like he handles all Yonko First Mate, Yonko Commander type characters. That's all fine. He is very clearly an Admiral level character. Shanks scaring him is meant to be a scene that hypes Shanks. It's not, but people are instead being like, oh, well, instead of viewing that as a scene that really hypes up Shanks, let's just assume that it means that Green Bull isn't a real Admiral level character, when that's not really the case. Mr. Boston, thanks for the 2. We need to stop using Marineford to power scale. Why? What? That's the biggest power scaling pool of examples we have. That's the one place where you had not just Yonko and Yonko commanders, but also all of the Marines, and then also all of the Shichibukai together, and then even some random extra characters like fucking Jinbei and shit like that, right? Like it gives us the biggest pool to work with. Crocodile, I think Crocodile could be in here if he's gotten a buff post time skip, but I'm not really gonna assume that just yet. If he's gotten a buff, then I think he's in this group somewhere. The Yonko first mates. Would you perpetuate the Green Bull hate? Don't lie. I I do perpetuate the Green Bull hate in the sense that like I do often knock him, but how do I say this? I knock him in the sense that I use him as an example of like he's the weakest admiral and like he doesn't make the rest. Shanks and Green Bull is probably the clearest example we've ever had in the story of like a character that we all consider Yonko level, just like embarrassing a character that is admiral level. So I think but I kind of take that at face value that it's like, okay, so there's just a difference here in levels, but I think a lot of people just want to not even count Green Bull as admiral level or something like that in that case, where to me it's just like that's Oda making a statement. Um, Everything else about Green Bull is identical to what you see from the rest of the admirals, right? I'm not saying he's like equal to all of them, but he's clearly in the same tier. It's the resume you would expect, which is like anyone Yonko commander and down um, is good. He can take care of it, no problem, right? Even against another admiral, he can clearly go toe to toe. He'd probably lose to Fujitora if they just went all the way all out, but he's not this whole tier. There's not a big gap between Green Bull and Fujitora where you can stuff in a bunch of other characters. I already feel weird putting in, Sengoku and Jupiter and stuff like that, but, you know. Fujitora greater than Kizaru in my opinion, only admiral without an undefendable loss, but Fujitora has fought almost no one, you know? It's like Doflamingo, Dressrosa Law, who is very weak relative to right now. Um, yeah. Most first mate feats. Yeah. Way better feats than everyone below. Just lacks the advanced conquerors hockey. Let's put him higher. Drove away Big Mom 1v1. Drove away Big Mom 1v1. Did well against all three admirals at Marine Ford. None could get past him. Yeah. Honestly, was beating up. Was beating up King and Queen simultaneously for a long time. Law. Phenomenal support feats on rooftop and against Big Mom. But 1v1 did a great job against Blackbeard, especially considering Law was unfairly ambushed and had bums backing him. Just, yeah. Marco, Zoro, Yamato. Yeah. I think that's pretty straightforward. Sabo. Did held off Fujitora for a while 1v1, but Fujitora was also not trying, and Sabo was still struggling. Fundamentally worse feats than the characters above. He has been training, though, so may jump some spots next time we see him. Law feat-wise and portrayal-wise is above Marco, easily even with Zoro. What? No, that makes no sense. Marco was in the identical situation. What we were shown was that Marco by himself was like literally considered a big... What? Look at how Big Mom treats Kid and Law to compare to how she treats Marco. Like, she treats Marco with significant respect. She talks down to Kid and Law. Like, you two shouldn't even be like a challenge to me. It's just because they're working together and in tandem that they end up becoming a big problem. But it's clear that she still puts Marco on a much higher pedestal than Kid and Law. She's basically just like, she's very literally like, Marco, you are a problem. I actually cannot deal with you, even by like 1v1 at the moment. So I'm going to leave you alone. Obviously, Big Mom could have beaten Marco if she goes all out or whatever. But it was clear that like she treated him with significant respect, right? Marco is a character that everybody and their mother in One Piece like mentions and hypes up and like respects. We've seen this throughout the story. I don't know where you would get that from for Kid or Law, because they're definitely not treated in that esteem. And then Zoro, it was also very clear, like when everybody was on the rooftop, Luffy and Zoro were the two characters that Kaido and Big Mom heaped the most praise and respect on, not Kid and Law. So I think in all identical scenarios, it's pretty clear that Law should be below both Zoro and Marco. That's true, but they were challenged. Big Mom was underestimating. I agree that she was underestimating them. I'm just responding to the point that was being made, which is that Law is given more hype. I'm like, where? Because it's not from the characters in the story, you know? Gonko greater than Hancock and Sanji. They have no way to damage her, and she beat Yonko 3, Jinbei no diff, while Sanji thinks Jinbei is surpassing him. I don't think Sanji actually thinks Jinbei is surpassing him. And Jinbei, I personally don't think Jinbei is a Yonko 3. I think Jinbei, because I don't think Jinbei beats Doflamingo. I think he could technically beat Cracker because of the matchup, because of the water situation, but in general, like, Cracker was kicking Gear 4th Luffy's ass. I think Jinbei is, like, at the cusp. He's, like, if I were to do a tier list, I've sometimes felt like there's like a tier between Toby Roppo and Yonko Commander level, but that's probably being too technical, right? That's getting into too nitty gritty. So if we just go with the straightforward of, oh my god, fuck, I forgot to fucking send something. Oh my god. Holy shit. Yeah, if we go with the straightforward idea of like, I just forgot to send something. If we go with the straightforward idea of just like, okay, it's Toby Roppo level, then Yonko Commander level, I feel like Jinbei is just, he's like hanging on. I don't think he's Toby Roppo level, but I think he's hanging on to the very bottom of Yonko Commander. It's like barely. It's like by the skin of his teeth. I don't know. I think it's like by the very skin of his teeth. Something like that. Jinbei is definitely Yonko 3 level, but why? He doesn't do anything that would suggest that that's the case, right? In his fights, when does he do, like, I think if he was, like, put it this way. If you had Dressrosa Gear 4th Luffy fight Who's Who, I think Who's Who's taking maybe like 1 or 2 hits max. Like, I think the fight's over. And to me, like, Gear 4th Luffy is kind of the bottom of Yonko Commander level, or like Doflamingo Dressrosa, Cracker. Like, what would these characters do to Who's Who? You know, to me that's Yonko 3. I even think like Vista is technically like, He's not technically Yonko 3, but he's something like that, right? Vista fucking stalled Mihawk for a while. And he had actually like I think that there's just a different standard for Yonko Commander personally than what I'm like. Yeah, no Yonko Commander loses to Gunko Zero Diff. Yeah, I don't think Vista's going down to Gunko like that. You know, I don't think Doflamingo's going down to Gunko that easily. Um, Jinbei hasn't had a real challenge yet. That's true, but also from his fight with Who's Who, I don't think it's implied that he's like way. He's obviously clearly stronger than Who's Who with a bit of a gap, right? Like they're not the same level, but it's not like, oh, this is like a joke matchup. Like Jinbei just walks through him. Like Who's Who was actually a bit of a pain in the ass for Jinbei, you know? Like he did do damage. He was getting in hits and stuff like that. Like it wasn't a instant win or whatever, right? So I'm not saying that Jinbei's I think people also forget that so we did actually already see we saw Jinbei, Pedro, and Capone Beige all together try to fight Katakuri. Jinbei, Pedro, and Capone Beige, all of them tried to fight Katakuri, and the result seemed very similar to everybody trying to fight Gunko. I can pull that up in a second. But hold on. Just gonna post this. Yeah. Here, if we look real quick, right? If we look real quick, so like 960. When's the tea party happening? Oh, I'm way off. 864, something like that. Yeah. So, look, you would say this is a similar situation to the Strats versus Gunko, right? Um, Katakuri versus Jinbei, Capone Beige, Pedro. I think this is like a similar squad to Jinbei, Nami, Usopp, Brook. Hell, I might take this squad, right? I think Nami is no, it's I think it's comparable, right? I think it's a comparable situation. I'm pretty sure Katakuri can handle them just as easily. So Katakuri, keep in mind Katakuri's goal here is not to actually defeat them. He's just trying to get past them to stop Luffy, right? Yeah, he's just trying to get to Luffy. But Pedro's like, Mochi, I'm getting stuck. Jinbei, Katakuri just like breezes past Jinbei. Like, to me, I'm pretty sure just like following this scene, I'm pretty sure that Katakuri could have handled this trio just as easily as Gunko handled the Straw Hats, right? Like, they're basically non-factors to him. He can just waltz through them. They can't touch him. Does that make sense? And I think the bigger thing is Katakuri was also about to do that to like Luffy, who is at that point in time like, you know, Dressrosa Luffy, pretty strong character. Like he gets past all those three and then immediately also captures Luffy, which is pretty impressive, you know? So I'm not saying you guys see what I'm saying? So I think that I want to see it. I'm not saying Gunko can't be that strong. I just think that looking at it now, I think Gunko might be. Yeah. I think Gunko isn't doing anything that I wouldn't expect from a first mate type character. Damn, nobody's talking about the stuff I just pulled up. I guess nobody cares. I guess I'm just responding to the Gunko stuff for no reason. Everyone's talking about Shanks and Mihawk. I thought that we'd be done with this shit. Cause like, here's the thing: even if you're a Shanks fan and you believe from the bottom of your heart that Shanks is stronger than Mihawk, why not just take a break from the argument for the moment? Because like, if I'm being honest, like in my heart of hearts, I still feel like I would not be surprised if Shanks is supposed to be stronger. But I'm not gonna like if that's the case, then we'll just find that out at some point in the story, you know? If that's the case, then we'll find that out at some point in the story. But at the moment, I also feel comfortable just being like, you know what? Maybe it's not the case. Let's work with Mihawk being stronger, right? And then if there's counter evidence later on down the line, then we revisit. Like, why not just relax on it at the moment? Because at the moment, I think it's pretty hard to make any argument for Shanks. So let's just all just relax, right? Like, why not just say it's why not just say it's settled for right now? Like, why not just what's it? Man, I just put Zoro below Yamato on this list. I feel like I should get some props for that, right? Like, because I feel like we got some new information, which is Gaban just told us that Zoro doesn't understand his Conqueror's Haki yet. I'm pretty sure Yamato can use Conqueror's Haki at will. We saw her come in swinging at Gaban, or at not Gaban, at Green Bull, and it seemed like she used Conqueror's Haki. I'm like, cool. I think Zoro will be shown to be stronger than Yamato later, but at the moment, I'm good putting him here, you know? It's recreational arguing at this point, to be honest. Yeah, okay, I guess I get that. It's just that I think I'm also at a point where I think that there's not many arguments I can make for Shanks that make it a fun debate anymore. Um, Outside of the Joy Boy, basically at this point, right? At this point, the argument for Shanks would have to be completely dependent on Shanks being able to do hockey techniques that Rox and Roger and Harold could not. Which is possible. It's entirely possible. We know that Shanks is like Oda's maybe favorite character outside of Luffy, possibly, right? It's entirely possible. But I'm not going to bet the house on that, you know? I'm going to roll with what we've got so far, you know? The Joyboy Haki Knot, that is still a big deal. But we've seen so many other things at this point that I'm also just like, I'm not going to bet the farm on Oda having created some specific hockey techniques that only Shanks can use. The only character that we know of so far who has specific Conqueror's Haki techniques that only they can use is Zoro and Ashura. That's the only character who has that so far. Mr. Bossum, thanks for the 2. Jinbei has respect comparable to Marco by Big Mom. I don't think so. That's literally not true. She literally tells him when she's in her weakened, shriveled up state, she literally tells him, don't think, this is when she's on the ship. She's like, don't think you can stop me, you fish. I think she says something like that. I hope I didn't make up the fish line, because that makes me sound really bad. But she's literally like, don't think that you're able to stop me. Whereas with Marco, she is very explicitly like, oh, you can stop me. It's not even close to comparable. I think this was the previous chapter. Even Nami doesn't think that Jinbei can handle it. She's on his crew. Do you think you can win a battle of strength, you slippery little shark? Okay. She does call him a shark. That's fair. But I don't think at any point Big Mom is like, essentially what you're comparing to here. Oh, this is the same group, right? This is the same group. Oh no, you swap out Usopp for Chopper. But essentially the difference is like, this is starving Big Mom. Starving Big Mom doesn't think that Jinbei, Brook, Nami, like this entire Chopper, this entire group of Straw Hats can stop her. Whereas with Marco, just Marco alone and Big Mom and Perospero together, Big Mom was like, okay, we actually can't deal with you, so I'm gonna leave. It's actually remarkably different. It's actually as opposite in terms of portrayal as you can get. I still think Jinbei is very strong. So let me be clear. I think that Jinbei is Yonko Commander level. I think he's just hanging on by the skin of his teeth, by the skin of his whatever fangs or whatever. Like, I don't think that he's like. I think he would lose to Gear 4th Luffy and Dressrosa. I think he would lose to Doflamingo. I think if there's no water around, he probably loses to Cracker. I just think that, yeah, I I definitely think he loses to Vista. I don't know. Maybe Jack. Jack might be the only Yonko third commander that he might beat, but that's also because Jack has no points of comparison to anyone outside of Inarashi Nekamamushi. And even they need Sulong to beat him, so I don't really know. Marco can stall, that's it really. I mean, he literally, like, he can do quite a bit. Um, Stalling is obviously what he's best at, but we already saw he can damage King, and he can literally like manhandle King and Queen, who are two physically very strong characters at the same time. Like he can just grab them and do whatever he wants to them, right? If the battle was outside, they'd be fucking chucked into the ocean, you know? Um, like Marco can't physically straight up fight Yonko or anything like that, but it is a big deal that Yonko essentially can't really get past him easily either, you know? At least Big Mom couldn't. On top of that, we've seen throughout the war, like, uh, Marco's kicks, like, his kicks are actually very effective. He sent Kizaru. I think there's just a perception because he's so good at the durability and regeneration that, like, that's all he can do. But he was kicking around Admirals. He was sending Kizaru flying. He sent Aokiji flying. He did not send Akainu flying because it's implied that Akainu used Future Sight to avoid the attack, much like Katakuri would by like shifting his magma around to not get hit. But that also suggests that Marco's attacks are pretty potent, you know, and damaging King, kind of the cherry on top. All right, Hancock. Let's finish this out. Um, let's see. Let's see. Hancock. Hancock. So with Hancock, uh, this is her last chance, giving her benefit of the doubt. At this point, when the fuck has her ability worked on anyone who. When. At this point, she has never successfully turned anyone strong slash notable to stone. Um, she has conquers hockey, uh, but no evidence she has advanced conquers hockey. Um, she needs an actual feat slash win. Um, yeah, that's all I'll say. Sanji, uh, doesn't have any feat against a top tier besides stopping Kizaru's laser. So hard to put him higher, but I believe he shouldn't be too far off from Zoro, and not Ifrit Jambe. He was far. Yeah, that's how I'm feeling. Yeah, Sanji loses to Hancock, but this isn't about matchups. He's superior to her in every stat. I could put Sanji above Hancock. I could put Sanji above Hancock. Hmm. I could put Sanji above Hancock. I blame Oda for introducing a title, such a title early on. Mihawk isn't entirely to blame, to be honest. I think that's a silly argument because it's not. I think the funny thing that people get into with like the Shanks Mihawk thing is like people seem to be under the impression that Oda's somehow confused or Oda doesn't realize the gigantic debate that would be spawned by this. Okay, so let's be very clear here. Do you guys think that like so the first character that's being introduced in the story, the first two characters are obviously Luffy and Shanks, right? So Shanks is the first significant side character being introduced in the story. And the next major side character that's being introduced in the story, right, is Zoro. Obviously you could say Kobe, but like Zoro's the much bigger character, Shanks is the much bigger character, right? And Zoro's whole thing is becoming the world's strongest swordsman. And then Oda introduces the world's strongest swordsman right after this, which is Mihawk. Okay? And then Oda even establishes that Shanks and Mihawk actually used to fight each other. Okay? So do you guys... this is all in the first fucking 95, 96 chapters. All right? This is the very start of the story. He hasn't even gotten into all the other characters. They don't fucking exist. None of this is real. There's no... Hockey has not been explained. No Logia fruits really yet or anything like that. This is just the core shit, right? It's just you choose Shanks first chapter, obviously gonna be very important for the rest of the story. Zoro, like 2 chapters later, wants to become the world's strongest swordsman. Then Oda introduces the world's strongest swordsman, who Zoro wants to be, and then Oda establishes that the world's strongest swordsman actually used to fucking fight Shanks. Okay, do you guys honestly think that Oda just didn't know what he's creating with this scenario? This isn't like that might make sense if like Shanks was introduced 500 chapters later or Mihawk was introduced like 500 chapters later or something. This is all core tenets of the story. This is shit that he's probably thought the most about out of anything else. These are like core characters and core character dynamics that go towards the very finale of the story. Oda already knows what he wants Shanks to do in the end game of the story. He said that in an interview, that the final saga is going to be very Shanks-centric. Oda already knows how Zoro and Mihawk's going to go down, and that's the end game for Zoro. Oda's the one who's fucking creating the dynamic, the past dynamic between Shanks and Mihawk. He never had to do that, by the way, if he was confused about how, like, swordsmanship versus hockey or whatever plays into things. Oda knows what is supposed to be the outcome of these duels or whatever in his head. This is all, like, I just love when people are like, oh, I think Oda just doesn't, like, why is he so vague about this? Why doesn't he's, whatever vagueness exists, it's very deliberate. He fucking knows what he's doing. This isn't like random ass characters that we're trying to scale over the course of the story. These are 3 characters who are very tightly tied together in terms of what each of their journeys and statuses and ability set, whatever means in relationship to one another, right? And it's all stuff that he established at the very start of the story. He's not confused. There's no confusion in his mind. He's not getting to chapter 1200 and is like, wait a second. If I make Zoro beat Mihawk, but Shanks was stronger than Mihawk, and Shanks is a swordsman and he uses a sword, but did I properly explain to them that he doesn't use his sword the way that Mihawk uses his sword, and so he's not a real sword? Oh my god. What a fucking dilemma I've put myself into. How will I communicate to the readers the truth of this whole complex situation? He's not fucking confused about any of that shit. He knew from the beginning what he wants to do at the end. We're just trying to figure out, is it as straightforward as Mihawk greater than Shanks, or is there something more to Shanks other than just being a swordsman? But at the moment, all signs seem to be like, well, if there is something else to Shanks, there's nothing that we can really point out on paper, so let's go with the Mihawk greater than Shanks. You know? That's all I'm saying. I just love when people are like, Oda really fucked this up by making it too complicated. No, he didn't fucking make it complicated. He just doesn't want to tell us the answer right now. You guys like Zoro versus Shanks versus Mihawk is probably the first power scaling debate in One Piece. I would bet from the beginning of the story. Maybe Luffy versus Zoro would probably have been an early power scaling debate, because that's even picked at with it's literally brought to the forefront of the story with Whiskey Peak and everything. Like, let's settle it. Who's actually stronger? Yada yada. But Shanks versus Mihawk is probably the first one. Damir versus Shanks fought Mihawk last chapter. That'd be kind of crazy. All right, everybody. All right. We are going to wrap things up here. If you want the jersey or any of the other Straw Hats jerseys, because there's a lot of them, just hit that link and sign up so you'll be notified the moment that they're on sale. So go sign up, hit the link above. If you want an absurd deal, an absolutely absurd deal on all of our past poster collections, then go right now to One Dream Studio, where we've got a crazy deal just for this December where you can buy 2 and get 4 free. That is absolute insanity. Buy 2 of any of the collections. All of our past collections are on display here. You can mix and match, buy 1 from here, buy another from here, buy 4 from here, buy 3 from here. You're essentially getting 6 for the price of 2, and you can mix and match however you want. We have new exclusives. We've got Aces Striker. We've got Skypiea version of Going Merry. The OG Going Merry is gone forever. We've got Shamrock. We've got Garling. We've got Dami Reversey Rocks. Original Rocks and Emu are also gone forever. But we've got a lot of things here. We've even got Puffing Tom, which is, I think, again, my personal favorite from this. We have the giveaway winner being picked tomorrow. It will not be on stream. We're just going to post the winner on Instagram. But definitely go to our Instagram. Definitely go to our Instagram. And if you follow, then you're immediately entered into the giveaway. And the winner of the giveaway for you get to pick a full collection is going to be picked tomorrow on Instagram. If you make a purchase on the store, you're also double entered into the Instagram giveaway. So yeah, hope everybody had a good time with today's stream. I think we got a solid top 30. I would not be surprised if opinions are changed even by the last couple chapters of the year once we see how Herald goes out and like what's Loki's contribution, what's Shanks' possible contribution, hell, maybe even Shamrock's possible contribution, we don't know. But I will probably do an all-time top 30 stream before the end of the year as well. An all-time top 30. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. And yeah, with that, I will talk to you all later.